LiberalViewer presents.
So there are a couple different scenarios under which a video might get blocked, right? One is it gets identified by content ID. Another is a DMCA takedown, which is an actually copyright holder actually sending us a message saying that video, I own something in it, and I swear on the Bible that I'm going to take it down. And there are different processes, so it's important to emphasize the difference. If it's the content ID route, which is basically as you're uploading the video or as we're screening older videos on the site, the machines basically recognize that there's a file in our system that we've gotten from a copyright holder, and that they've set a preference on it. They've set a preference to either block or to track. Track just means let the video stay up, but we want to know more of what's happening with it, or to monetize it, and then we end up splitting the revenue. If it's set to block, then basically that video, as soon as it's detected and we have a good confidence rating in that matching, then the video gets blocked, and you get a message saying our systems think they've detected a match here with a file that we have on reference, and the copyright owner wants to block it. That's all outside of the land of the law. Like Victoria said, that's above and beyond, kind of an extra layer above what the law says to do. So you're not yet in DMCA land at that point, right? So, and you should get in that scenario a message saying, here are your options. Take down the video, replace the audio if it's an audio match, or dispute if you think there's been an error here. And there's, you can put in different reasons for why you think there's been an error. You can say, oh, I think I actually get paid for this and got a license to it. I think I think you think it's a fair use. I think that your machine's made a mistake. And then the video will go live immediately once you do that. And then the copyright holder gets a notice. And then to take your video down, they have to issue an actual DMCA notice, right? At that point, you're in the land of the law. At that point, you're out of private ordering that we've done with content ID. But the same holds true. You get the DMCA notice. Your video comes down. You can counter it. And yes, there will be a period of time when your video is not up. But that's how the law says it works. And when you think about it, there's really almost no other way to do it. Just purely logically, there's no other way to do it other than this kind of back and forth between the parties who are in the dispute, where we just kind of say, okay, your turn, now it's your turn, now it's your turn. And if it ends up being, in a lawsuit, which as far as I know hasn't happened directly with the user, but it could happen. There have been cases of users actually suing the companies that have taken down files where they think they've done it over aggressively or they think they've done it in error. But you always have an opportunity to, if you think you're in the right, get your video back on. It's not ever going to be perfectly seamless, but we do want to have that, and we spend a lot of time trying to design that system of checks and balances.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I actually made, in the video I made before this, I took on the issue of the video ID system, and for your flagging system, you don't ever change the status of a video until a human being's looked at it.
Yeah.
But for this video ID system, you do. It's just all by machine, gets taken down immediately, and it takes a long time to get a human being to review it for monetization if you're submitting it as a partner video. And for a lot of people, they're afraid to dispute stuff. They're not a lawyer. So a lot of people, when they get that message, they're just not going to do anything. So why not put a human being in that system like there is in the flagging system?
They're completely different things. So this is a great theme. I'm glad you asked about it. So remember when YouTube was first blowing up, and it's right around the time before Google bought it, Mark Cuban was on his blog talking about, if there's no porn on YouTube, how come they can't screen for copyright? And just purely as a matter of logic, they're two different things. A human being can look at a video and say, with certain criteria, okay, this is nudity, right? This is nudity in a context that we don't want on the site. It's not scientific, etc. You literally cannot look at a file and know whether or not it's copyright infringing. A human being, other than the copyright holder or a judge, cannot look at a video and say this is a copyright issue. So
even if we hired 10,000 lawyers to look at all the videos, we still would not know with a degree of certainty whether it was permitted to be on the site or whether it wasn't. If it was a Fox News clip, whether there was permission, whether there wasn't. If it was a UGC clip, whether there was permission, whether there wasn't.
We would make mistakes in both directions if we had a human being doing copyright stuff. We would make mistakes. We'd leave things up that might look homemade because even though that's a terrible indicator of whether or not something's authorized, because everything's copyrighted when someone makes it. The question is whether it's authorized. We would take some of those down and we'll leave some of those up, and they might actually be from a TV network that makes homemade looking videos. There's lots of videos that have gone up on the site that literally in the same week, the copyright holder will say, take this down, and then a couple days later, their marketing department will come back and go, actually, can you put it
That's what we
back
saw
up?
a lot of in
Well,
VidCon.
I agree that it's a difficult thing for a person to do, but a machine can't do it either. And these machines are taking down videos without any human being involvement, fair use videos. And a lot of people never get them put back up. And for partners, it takes 30 days before it can be monetized.
So two different things there. One, it's not like machines are deciding things arbitrarily. We're actually basing it on a reference file that we get from a copyright holder along with a preference that they want, whether they want to block it or track it or monetize it.
But that doesn't tell you whether it's fair use or not.
It does not, which is why you have the chance to appeal it.
The machine enables a dialogue between the two parties that are basically in the position to decide.
Well, why not enable that dialogue while the video is still up?
Yeah, I think that's the problem
That's the
right there. Is
point.
that
Yeah. Why disable the video?
Takedown.
Right, and I think that gets to the rock and the hard place, and of course, I'm sure there's nothing more annoying than hearing corporations whine. but the idea is we're always treading this balance between balancing a user's need to freely express themselves with what it will require for us to do to keep YouTube up.
I have
This seems like it's
insight
totally-
about that, though. If I may just interrupt for a second, I'm sorry. I used to have a close friend, he's still a close friend, and he still works for Warner Brothers. I live here in Hollywood. And he works in the legal department at Warner Brothers, and his job was to go and flag videos for copyright. And he told me that he was told by his superiors to flag everything, regardless of whether they actually still had the copyright. So lots of old Bugs Bunny
That's a very legally risky strategy. I don't know. I can't speak directly to Warner's policies.
But because it's not harmful to them, because if the content...
Wait a minute. There are literally cases on this that record companies have lost, and that other media companies have lost, or eventually backed out of, where they took down a video where they maybe had rights, or maybe didn't, or maybe it was a fair use case. They were sued by the user, and ended up reinstating the video. So, I mean, there's literally a cause of action in the law that says if you don't own the thing, someone can sue you for having taken it down.
And that's part of the point, though, is that most users don't have the resources to do a countersuit. So I'm just wondering why not have the capability of a 2-day grace period. So the notice is sent out to users and say, this has been flagged, either appeal or take it down or whatever. What is the logic of not leaving the video up until that grace period is passed?
If it's a DMCA takedown, the law says we take it down. So that's what we do.
Expeditious removal is how we get our safe harbor.
Okay.
And expeditious is usually defined as within 24 hours, right? And as you know, we're being sued by over a dozen, in over a dozen countries, and so that's one of the reasons we really pay attention to that.
Okay, and that's, I guess, what we're all wondering.
And then if it's a content ID recognition and the video comes down, you get a message immediately saying your video's come down, and if you disagree with it, you can reinstate it and object to it. And if you're not sure about the footing you're on, then we strongly recommend that you don't use other people's stuff.
Right.
I mean, if you don't feel confident in disputing the claim, then don't use other people's stuff in the video. I can't say it's like an easy calculation when you're trying to use footage or you're trying to do something that comments on something else. It's very hard.
Sure.
And it's not always a satisfying answer to say, if you're in doubt, leave it out. But we're talking about dealing with everybody in the world who's potentially uploading videos and every copyright holder in the world and balancing all those interests.
And I think that's why we're all here. We're trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of what those rules are and why. I mean, like if someone does research as to something that is clearly fair use and then it's unfairly flagged or something.
Do you guys remember the downfall video takedowns that happened?
Yes.
The Hitler downfall videos, right? And so we love the downfall videos, and as long as they were on YouTube, we felt as though, okay, well, the content owner obviously is permitting them to be on the site because no claims have been filed against them. Once there was a decision to take those down, people said to YouTube, well, isn't this fair use? Why aren't you guys doing something to stop it? And I think the hard part there is we would have to employ lawyers to look at 17,000 clips to determine fair use in every single instance. And even if we could employ that many lawyers to do that, actually it would be impossible to know with any degree of certainty whether it was fair use, right? Because that would just have to be decided ultimately by a court of law. And then fair use differs all over the world. So are there fair use rights in Germany? Does Germany actually acknowledge fair use? And so it's pretty complicated stuff.
But I would just affirm that it's very easy for a corporation to get loose with how they would use this tool because it's really easy and you guys don't really fight back
and their risk
too
is
hard.
minimal.
Yeah, yeah, and people are just very easily intimidated because there's almost no interact. Like, when else do you interact with the corporate voice of a media monolith?